Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks postgame show, I guess. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. The Hawks lose 8-1 in Dallas. We are powered by ComEd.
Yeah.
It's getting easier for your business to switch to electric vehicles. Learn more at ComEd.com/clean. If you're with us, Jesus, thank you very much. On New Year's Eve, after an 8-1 loss, I think it was you, Greg, that commented, the only people watching this game are the people who got paid for it.
It should have been. Yeah. I mean, man, if you're you watch this game all the way through and
bunch of sickos.
Yeah, you're dedicated, that's for sure. And thanks to all the dedicated folks in the chat right now. We love you guys. And we got paid to watch this game. What's your excuse?
Yeah, exactly. Can we super chat our listeners? Does it work that way?
No. I mean, we probably could, but no.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it anyway. Steven, that's Steven's department. Anyway, we appreciate you being with us. Yeah, we're gonna get through this one together. That sucked. I mean, pretty much top to bottom. It was not good. There's no use in recapping the scoring. Just Mason Marchment had a hat trick. So 2 games, 2 hat tricks for the Stars. It was Rupe Hintz the first game, and Mason Marchment today. He had 4 points plus 3 in this one. Mrazek wasn't very good. Soderblom came in relief, wasn't very good. Nobody was very good. It was just an all-around pretty piss-poor effort. And if you were watching the TV broadcast, you could hear the annoyance and frustration in Troy Murray's voice. And I think he was kind of speaking for all of us during this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. You're away from your families on New Year's Eve, and you got to watch team phone it in. It seems like we've had this discussion a few times this year where it's like, okay, cool. Like nobody really turned on the GAF meter very high tonight. There were a few guys. I mean, Kurashev was playing hard at the end. Beauvillier was putting out an effort. Cole Gutman was noticeable, but I mean, at that point, it didn't matter. Friday night, the Stars' top guns beat the Blackhawks. Your Rupe Hintz and Pavelski and Jamie Benn and Jason Robertson. Those were the Stars for Dallas, no pun intended. And tonight it was their depth that just kicked the shit out of the Blackhawks up and down the ice all night long. Blackhawks had no answer. The Stars were just like, hey, you know what? We let you guys hang around the other night and it almost cost us a point. We're not doing that tonight. We're the Stars. We're one of the best teams in the Western Conference. You're the Blackhawks. You're one of the worst teams in the league. And you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's a superior team with superior depth. As you like to reference often, Greg, the scene in Spaceballs where he's just got his hand on his helmet and he's just swinging at him helplessly. That's exactly what the Stars were doing to the Hawks. And look, we saw this from 2009 till 2016. The Hawks were doing this to other teams in the league why? Because they were deeper, they were faster, they were better than every team they played against. And their depth gave them the advantage. And the Hawks have half a line that you trust to do much of anything these days. And look, even this is 2 games in a row where Bedard has not been very good. And I think part of that is you are up against a Stanley Cup contender and a good team that is focusing on checking him. And I would love to know what Ryan Suter said to him when Bedard was trying to skate around Suter, and Suter kind of just put one arm out and Bedard went down. You could see they exchanged words. And I'm wondering if rumored Pudwack Ryan Suter was being a dick or if he was just saying something like, hey, man, tough lesson here tonight. I'm 39. I was playing before you were born probably, and that ain't going to work here. And these are the things that Bedard's going to learn as the season goes on, because he didn't have much tonight because what could he do? He was completely smothered every time he was on the ice.
Well, I wasn't super concerned with his offensive game. He still got off that one shot that somehow Wedgwood got a piece of, and it hit the post and stayed out. I think it was only 1-0 at that time. So who knows what happens if that goes in. He had another shot that he somehow got off through traffic that went above net. The things that concerned me were the second and third goals he stood out, and not for the right reasons. You know, that second goal, Jay, you text us that, Patrick Kane's piano showed up in Dallas as he slowly glided back to the defensive zone, and his guy, who he would have been picking up, the old man himself, Ryan Suter, rumored Budwhack, gets all day to get off a shot that I think clicked off of Kurashev, maybe, but didn't matter at that point. And then the third goal was him turning it over in the neutral zone because he's trying to skate through guys that we've seen so many times this year. So teaching moments, as coaches like to say. Not a great game from Connor Bedard, but you can go up and down the lineup and say the same thing for pretty much everybody out there. So pull out a few video clips and then burn the tape.
Yeah. And a good point from Windy City Hockey. He says this is the fifth time this season the Hawks have given up more than 5 goals. That's all. That's 7 goals. That's terrible.
Yeah, it definitely not great. And you know, we've given Soderblom a hard time, but this is the second game where Mrazek has eaten one. The Columbus game was not great, but then now we know, that was a team that night probably didn't have their heads in the right place, because that was, the beginning of the whole Corey Perry saga. And then tonight, I mean, you can't really get too mad at Mrazek. There were a couple that he probably should have had, but I mean, he was just under fire all night. And by the time he was, trying to keep things going, it was too late.
Yeah, I'm not blaming him on this one. I mean, look, there have been so many games where he has been the guy that kept them competitive, kept them in a game, gave them a chance to win. None of the goals I saw tonight, I'm like, oh, Mrazek, what are you doing? They were just goals. And a team that was getting a quality chance after quality chance after quality chance, you can't expect your goalie to keep you in a game that was as one-sided as this. And look, like, zooming out, of course, cup contender versus rebuilding team that will probably finish with the worst record in the league. All that said, it's all true, right? Fine. But like Windy City Hockey said, the absolute embarrassments are happening way too often. It's still the NHL. These are still NHL players on the Hawks roster. Yeah, they're not as stacked as Dallas or Colorado or whatever contender you want to point to, but this is not a team that should be getting waxed like this frequently. And what concerns me is, like, we had felt over the last few games, like, okay, they're still getting outplayed, but they're picking up some points. They forced an overtime game in the last game in Dallas, and you're seeing some fight. You're seeing some compete. And then you follow that up. A game that you should have felt, hey, we came back down. We were down 4-2. We tie it. We get to overtime. We lose with 9 seconds left. Hey, man, we battled. Let's build off that. And then you come in, 48 hours later and just shit the bed. Like, that's what frustrates me. It's not the fact that they're losing. It's not the fact that, it's another night. They just got beat. It's the fact that these blowouts are happening as often as they're happening. And the responses have not been there. And that's what's frustrating. If I'm concerned about anything, that's the concern.
Yeah, well, I mean, I might wear this one for saying, hey, maybe this team has turned a corner. Nope, they didn't. They're right back to, but this has been a ridiculously inconsistent team all season, and that's who they are. That is who this team is. So maybe we should expect one of these every 6 or 7 games, because it seems to be the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hate to. Hey guys, I'm back. You hate to have that inconsistency, and honestly, consistency in the wrong departments. Where we've heard Nick Foligno talk about it a few times. Not having the bad habits stick around, and I feel like this team is prone to sinking into the bad habits, and I think that's. There's some young guys on this team that are still figuring out the NHL, but there's some veterans on this team that should know the NHL and should know what it takes night in and night out to not only just not just like not have a game where you lose 8-1, but to just have some normalcy, have some consistency. You know what it takes to, go to the rink every day and bring your big boy pants and play hockey and do the right thing. Like, there's enough guys on this team that have well over 2-3 full seasons of NHL experience that you shouldn't at this point still be figuring out the league. Like, you should have it figured out, and you should know what it means to be able, you should know what it looks like to play consistently. And it's super frustrating because you have the young guys and you want them to shine, but it was 8-1 tonight, and the best moment of the game was the tic-tac-toe power play goal, but it made the game 5-1. Like, who
Right.
cares? You
Yeah.
know? So it's just like the highlight that you want to take from the game with, a guy like Gutman who's, trying to become an NHL regular, a younger guy. Philip Kurashev, a younger guy who's, figuring out the league this year. Connor Bedard, obviously the most important player on this team right now. To have them connect for that goal and that highlight play, that's wonderful. But it made it 5-1 in an 8-1 game. Who cares? Like, that's really hard to have those consistent like moments be basically like washed out. Like, yeah, okay, but you got canned tonight. Like, it makes it hard to kind of like separate the good from the bad when there's so much bad so consistently. So I don't know. It's like you said, Greg, like you kind of thought that they were turning a corner, but maybe it's just, we've seen enough of it this season. So many instances where it's just like, this is just this team. They're going to have 5, 6, 7 bad games, then 1, maybe 2 that they string together that are like, oh, not bad. Maybe they don't win, but hey, at least they looked good losing. And then they go back into their form. So it's really disappointing, especially the way last season went.
Couple comments in the chat here. Lord Hostess says, it's just my hot take, so it probably isn't widely accepted, but I've been saying these sudden game collapses fall on the coaching staff. The motivation has to be there. And then Dom follows up and says, at what point do you kind of start looking at Luke sideways? It's so hard to judge. This roster is so poor. It's so poor. And like, if this was happening with Hall and Athanasiou and Seth Jones and Corey Perry still here and all that sort of stuff, like maybe you could start to say, maybe last year was an anomaly and this coaching staff doesn't know what they're doing. But we got to look like this is an all-time bad roster. Like we have the file from last year. It should be for this year because this is just.
Yeah, we could start a second half of the year file.
The lineup in this game is like, of the people that played today, how many of them are going to be full-time NHLers in even like 3 years? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just not an NHL team. But I do want to say, Mario, your point about the goal is interesting because it was a sweet goal and it was something that should be and will be on highlight tapes, but it just falls through the cracks. And I went to Natural Stat Trick, like just expecting to see an absolute bloodbath on the metrics, and it's actually not as bad as you'd think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Blackhawks were over the 50% threshold in possession. Colin Blackwell, 73.9% in Corsi for 17 shot attempts for, 6 against with him on the ice. Alex Vlasic, 21 shot attempts for, 12 against with him on the ice. Beauvillier, 17 attempts for, 10 against with him on the ice. That's like nearly 63%. A lot of Hawks had decent games in this. And when you look at Jason Dickinson's line, he finished even in an 8-1 loss. Like that's saying something. Like, you know what I mean? So there was some good stuff, but when the score is 8-1, it feels like wasted breath to even talk about it because but it was 8-1. So I don't know. It's just such a weird game to try to find silver linings in. But I think when you're in a rebuild and your roster is what it is, that's kind of what we're stuck having to do, right? Is like try to find little positive takeaways. And that's what's getting back to Luke, is that's what he has to do now, is he's got to get on that plane on the way home and be like, okay, obviously I'm going to have my speech about competing again, and maybe it'll be another players only meeting again. But what are the positives I can take away from this coach? Because that's what this generation of player responds to. They respond to positivity. They respond to positive reinforcement. And fortunately, it appears there will be at least a little bit of that to take away in this loss.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Dickinson line is you can say, hey, that's what all of you should have done tonight to play like that. But not a great quote here from Nick Foligno after the game. This is from Mark Lazarus of The Athletic. Nick Foligno had a lot to say after that one, said the Blackhawks are teetering on the line between immaturity and ignorance when it comes to their readiness to play. That is not a good quote.
Here's what I'll say.
There.
I like Nick Foligno. I like him a lot. I hope he's on a show often. It's too often that the veterans on this team are saying that it's young and it's immaturity. Because guess what? A lot of the veterans aren't showing up either. It's not just the kids. It's not just like, well, Connor Bedard or Lucas Reichel made a bad play. I didn't see much from Nick Foligno tonight either. Let's be honest. Like, there wasn't a lot. You know, he was on the ice for 17:02. He was a -2. He had 3 shots on goal. Okay. Right? Like, the veterans on this team, Jared Tenorti, -3. It's just you can't constantly just blame it on the kids all the time in the immaturity. And the other thing is, too, if you were brought in here to lead this team and be Coachy Coacherson off the ice, you know, and in the locker room, and you wear that letter on your sweater, some of it's got to fall on you a little bit too if this keeps happening. And I'm not blaming him or any of the veterans, but to just say this is immaturity or this is a young team doing young things, it's not just that. It's not just kid mistakes. That's not the case.
Well, I think he's throwing that in there, saying that there's ignorance in how they. What was the full quote again, Greg? Do you still have it up?
They're teetering on the line between immaturity and ignorance when it comes to readiness to play.
Well, that's 2 bad things. So you're teetering on the line between 2 bad things. But yeah, I think he's throwing that in there of saying like ignorance of being ready to play. The immaturity that covers the young guys, ignorance that's the veterans. That's kind of what I was saying, where there's enough guys on this team that have played enough NHL games that being able to start on time or showing up for a game and putting in an NHL quality effort and execution shouldn't be a problem. That should be the baseline. And I'll give Foligno the benefit of the doubt that he's not going to say anything that he's not also saying about himself, but I mean, it is a complete locker room problem. It's not 1 or 2 or 3 guys that you point the finger at and say that's why we lost tonight. That's why we're constantly being dragged down. It's everybody. No one is given a free pass. And like we said before, Connor Bedard, not a wonderful game. Like he's got to learn the NHL. For as talented as he is, as gifted as he is, as good as he will likely be throughout the entirety of his career, he's gonna have some bad games, and he needs to learn from it. So it's not just a few bad apples. It's a whole roster that's not pulling their weight.
All right, here's a longer quote from Foligno. This is from Mark Lazarus. There has to be a sense of urgency and a respect factor in the league, just becoming professionals. That's the fight we're going to have. We understand where we're at and where we're trying to get to, but we need commitment at that part of it, where every day you're preparing, your consistency in how you prepare, your ability to understand the team you're playing, what you need to do to get yourself ready. That's not on coaches. They've done a hell of a job giving us a game plan and what we need to do and the time off that we need to rest and recover. He's like, I'm sorry, the quote is a little disjointed because he's just kind of speaking off the top of his head. Continuing, that's on us. And that's the thing that drives me nuts as one of the older guys in the room. We need to figure that out soon. That to me is maturity or ignorance. It borderlines a little bit. I don't want it to bleed into ignorance. Oh, we're young or this. That's excuses to me. And that's not a team we're going to be built on. We owe it to ourselves and to our fans to be a better version, and every game we have to strive for that. Okay, that a little more clarity there, obviously, but again, it does fall into the youngness again. But I think he is directly kind of pushing against saying we can't just fall into that excuse night after night, which is true. Also, a little bit of news here: Luke Richardson did not have any details on Tyler Johnson's injury, but says he'll be out for some time. And when Luke says sometimes, that usually means a long-term injury. And it is said here that it's a new injury as well. So, yikes.
Another one of your veteran leader guys who are now going to miss some time. And, you know, you got to feel bad for Tyler Johnson, who his entire Blackhawks run has just been riddled with injuries. And he'd seemed that he was finally playing healthy and being effective. He had 2 goals last night. He's had two goal games this season, and hurt again. That sucks. So see who gets called up from Rockford tomorrow.
David Gust.
Yeah, come on down, Boris Kachuk. He's back in the lineup.
Yeah,
he'll get a Bedard spot. Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, so to what Foligno is saying in the extended quote, the director's cut. One thing I'll throw in there to the idea of coaching and Richardson and everything. Judging him on the expectations. Judge him when there are some. There's no expectations other than to be a bottom feeder this year. But as far as culture goes, as far as locker room goes, as far as getting the team moving in the same direction, they had that last year, and we saw it the way that they played. It came through in those efforts. So if Foligno is saying that the team as a whole is having problems or inconsistencies coming to the games, being ready to play, being motivated, having the right mindset, all that. One thing I'll say with regards to Richardson is at what point, because he has made it clear he wants to be the players police themselves. They have their they have their locker room space, all that. And he wants to kind of be hands off with stuff like that. At one point, does he have to get hands on? Like, I think the players like that approach to be like, players police themselves. Locker room is yours. Like, you guys handle your business. If they're not handling their business, he's got to step in and say, pick your heads out of your asses. Like, if that's the message coming from your, without being the captain of Nick Foligno, if that's what's coming out from the player's perspective, at some point doesn't to step in and be more than just the stern dad. Like, doesn't he have to come in and start maybe picking up the intensity, changing that kind of, hey, this isn't gonna fly here kind of thing? Like, unless that's already happening and it's in one ear out the other of the players, then that's a whole nother issue.
The fact that Foligno went out of his way to say this isn't on the coaching, I think is meaningful. But I also think at some point the players are going to kind of look up to the on high and be like, is anyone going to come down and say something too? And look, maybe he has. I don't know. Like, we don't get access to those sort of things. They kind of keep it vague, and because they do that, then we have to kind of just do our best to put together the pieces we know about. But Lucas said all year, like you said, Mario, like he wants the players to lead. But at some point now we're 35 games into the season, and the players apparently haven't led yet. Because again, say what you want about wins and losses and points or no points. It's 8-1, 7-1, 6-1, 8-2. Like, this shit is happening too often. And it's not only against the Dallas Stars. It happened against Columbus. It happened against Arizona. Like, some of their worst performances are teams that are supposedly on their level. I'm not trying to make too much of one game, but damn, this shit has to stop. These losses have to stop.
I just don't know if Luke Richardson screaming and yelling is going to give Kevin Korchinski 200 games of NHL experience. I don't know if Luke Richardson yelling and screaming is going to give, Isaac Phillips more NHL experience, and so he doesn't have as many rough nights as he has. I don't know if yelling and screaming is going to make Arvid Soderblom make more saves when it's his night to start. I don't know. Sure, it'd be nice to see it. Maybe it's happened. I don't know. I don't think Luke Richardson would come out and tell all of us that, yeah, I spent the last 5 minutes screaming at these dudes. But, I just don't know if it makes, Taylor Radish all of a sudden an NHL All-Star, or Colin Blackwell an NHL All-Star. Like, I think it's just a bad team, and you can yell and scream and they're still going to be bad.
I maybe I should have been more clear. I'm not saying he has to go down and flip over tables and throw BioSteel at people. He doesn't need to be Mike Keenan. But guess what? Luke Richardson played for 22 effing years and probably has some ideas on how to be prepared for a game, even when you're overmatched. He played against Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr and Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky and all these great players that he had to buckle up and prepare for night after night after night throughout his career. He played for some bad teams. And guess what? Think back to the Hawks dynasty when they were kicking everybody's ass. How often were they kicking people's ass 8-1, 7-2? That didn't happen very often. Teams were able to keep it close against them. To me, it's these blowouts that are so concerning. And like Foligno has said over and over again, it's a preparation thing. So maybe a guy who's prepared for more hockey than anybody else in the United Center, Luke Richardson, aside from maybe Ryan Suter, should go and hey, you know what? Let me take my coach hat off and put my old player hat on and say, look, there's going to be nights where it's like this, where you're just completely overmatched. Here's how you prepare for a game to prevent that. Here are the things you can do to keep a game within reach and to keep it simple. Because what I'm seeing, and I think you guys would agree, is as the games start to get more and more out of hand, they get more and more chaotic. It's like, stop pouring gasoline on the fire and just simplify things. And we see them practice all the time. And they practice simple and they practice well and they execute well in practice. And they seem to understand what Luke Richardson is telling them. To me, it's a matter of preparedness and handling adversity. And those two categories are 0 for 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be about, and it's a very low bar to reach, but get back to how last year looked. Like this team can't look like last year's team. Like, they can't play that way. They can't be in 1-goal games. They can't, take a team down to the wire. Like, empty net goals last year, we were like, wow, they've had a lot of empty net goals, which means they've been in a lot of close games, a lot of 1-goal games. Empty net, they have to be nowhere near last year's pace in giving up empty net goals, because they're most games they're getting handled, without having any case for a comeback. So the young guys need more experience, absolutely, but the guys that they're seeing the example of being a pro around them, they have to carry their weight as well. Otherwise, again, like I said, we're getting into bad habits, and bad habits are hard to unwind after a while.
Yep.
I mean, this team just flat out doesn't have the offense to stay in many games, because once the other team gets their second or third goal, it's over. They can't score 3 goals on a nightly basis.
No, I know. I'm not saying they need to find this reservoir of talent. They just need to find the give a fuck meter.
Yeah, I think last year's team, as bad as it was, is obviously better than this year's team. This current version of this year's team, with no Seth Jones, I just list the injuries. No Taylor Hall, no Taylor Radish, no Tyler Johnson, who's going to be hurt next game.
Is it too late to send Bedard to the World Juniors?
Yes,
only if he gets to play for America. He's an American citizen now.
We need something to watch and say, good Lord, no, don't send him away. We need him to give us something to watch and root for every night. Anyway, if you want to get your rooting interest going in another way, like, maybe placing a wager on a game, Do it with our friends at Circa Sportsbook. They've got tight money line splits and low hold models. Their games strive to be a minus 110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike sportsbooks, which may use a minus 115 or minus 120 split. Circa Sports, they keep as little money on hand as possible for those large market bets like futures and golf tournaments, especially compared to other books. They've got high app limits, and they're transparent. Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. That doesn't seem fair. We encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available. Compare the lines from each, and you'll find that Circa will come out on top most of the time. And there are real people behind the Circa Sports brand. They resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike those other sports books that use chat bots. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So you know you've got great customer service. Download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. And if you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537, or text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
And speaking of winning money, another way you can win some money very easily is with our new friends over at Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in all of North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of betting against other thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more or less than on 2 to 6 players stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. If you hit on 6 players in one prize pick, you're going to win 25 times your bet. Prize pick is the most fun I've had, up to winning 25 times my money this hockey season. All I have to do to win money is select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place the entry. That's it. And another fun thing you can do is you don't have to just stick to hockey. You can mix it up. You could pick a Hawks player with a Bears player, or a Hawks player with a Bulls player, or any other team if you want to bet outside Chicago. You don't have to stick just to hockey to win money. Prize Pick even offers a reboot policy. So say that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if you pick a guy, maybe you pick Tyler Johnson tonight and he got hurt and didn't come out for the third period.
Whoops.
Well, Prize Pick is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So I got to scroll down here. This is a really long read. So go to prizepicks.com/Chicago CHGO and use CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO and use the code CHGO. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Easier than that read.
Got a quote here, a long quote. This is courtesy of Ben Pope. He said Richardson said he talked to Connor Bedard after the first intermission about his defensive errors early on. Here's his breakdown of Dallas's second and third goals. This is, again, quote from Luke Richardson. The second goal, it started in the O zone. We talked about it. We have to be on top of them, and that was Connor going behind the net when he's got to be on top of his D in front of the net, who ended up scoring the goal. I think he wants to get it back right away, and he's used to doing that, but I brought him in after the first period and told him, you can't get everything back in one shift. You've just got to get back to playing on top of them and trusting your other players to turn pucks over. You're going to get chances, like the one he hit the post in the first period, instead of we can't go rogue on our own end and try to beat everybody up the ice. That team is too good for that. Dallas, they just feed off of that. So there you go. There is an example of Luke Richardson taking a player aside, being specific, and saying, this is what it was. Mm-hmm. This is your deal. Fix it. That's the deal. That's what you want to hear. That is exactly what we're talking about. Is he took his star player aside individually and said, here are 2 examples of mistakes you made. Here's how to fix them. Here's why they were mistakes. Don't do it again.
Yeah. I mean, Bedard's the most important player on this team. He's the most skilled player on this team, but there's many lessons for him to learn. And at times he can do it all himself. But a lot of times that's not going to work just yet. So that sounds like that's what Richardson is trying to instill in him. Don't try and just go rogue and be Connor Bedard 1v5. Like, that's as spectacular as it would look if you pulled it off. You're not going to be able to do that very often. So yeah, I mean, it's good that Richardson is doing that.
Well, I
Guys,
think too.
I have some sad breaking news.
Okay.
The Packers beat the Vikings. They did not end in a tie, so the Bears now a 0% chance at making the playoffs.
Damn it.
We knew that back in September.
Yeah.
Well,
Shouldn't have blown 2 consecutive 10-point double-digit leads. That would have been nice.
That's all right.
if they
Hey,
hadn't done
this
that.
means the Bears can prevent the Packers from making the playoffs next week.
that'd be fun.
Some other news that came out of Dallas from our guy Charlie at NBC Sports, that Tyler Johnson was seen in a walking boot leaving the arena. So
Never
there you
good.
go.
Never good to be a walking boot.
No, it is not good. And Windy City Hockey says just got his free shirt for the renewal of the
Heyo.
diehard membership. Thank you.
Nice.
He's
Awesome.
here every game, and we appreciate that.
Love that.
Back to the Richardson quote about Bedard. That is something that it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Bedard, his whole life, has been a guy who has said, I'm going to win this game by myself. I'm going to get puck, skate through man, skate past other man, and put puck past next man. And he was able to do it his entire life. This is the first time that Bedard has really had, been stopped in his entire career. And he's still doing really damn well, all things considered. But this is the first time he hasn't been able to do that. So when we talk about these lessons he learns, I'm so glad that Luke Gott's trying to get the puck. I see what you're trying to do. However, when you do that, there's another player right there in front of the net uncovered, and he's going to score. Take care of your guy. Trust your teammates. And I know for Bedard right now, it's probably a little bit difficult to trust his teammates because they're not getting results. They're not winning puck battles and all those things. But his responsibility is not 5 skaters. He cannot handle that. Nobody can. So when he plays within his game and plays within the structure of the system, he's going to have more success. Like Luke said, you're going to get your chances. Don't cost us chances in the meantime. I like that. I think it's very clear what Luke is trying to say.
Yeah, and you'd like to think that Bedard can learn some lessons about playing within a system, playing off of your teammates, playing simple, so that when he does have help here in the next year or 2 or 3, hopefully not that long, but when he does have help, those simple lessons, he can get that down. That'll be that second nature at the NHL level to play simply, so that when he has other teammates that can play closer to a level of his game, that his star will shine brighter, because now he has that leeway to be able to do some of these spectacular things, because he can trust his teammates to do the right things or to be able to skate with him. So, get the lessons in now, so that down the road you pay off those dividends, and you have all-star caliber years, you have MVP caliber years, like all these things that we hope and expect from him. If he gets those simple things down, those basics down, as an 18-year-old rookie, he'll be able to have those be second nature by the time he's legally able to drink in the US.
All right, we've got some super chats we want to knock out, but first we got to take a timeout. Mario's going to tell you about our dear friends at Goose Island Beer Company.
Yes. You know who we've always had a good time with at this company is Goose Island Beer. They are the proud beer sponsor of us here at CHGO, and they have been Chicago's beer since 1988. And they have a tremendous year-round roster that you can enjoy of tremendous beers. They have the entire family of the Beer Hug IPAs. You got the full pocket Pilsner, the everyday beer that the Goose Island beer brewers are drinking. The of course, the 312 wheat ales, the golden cans, the staple of their year-round roster, and they have tremendous seasonals. Oktoberfest, the Christmas IPA. In the summer, you got some lovely shandy-style beers that are available. Really great stuff from Goose Island. Be sure to check them out wherever you are, but especially in the Chicagoland location. You can grab ultra-fresh, brewery-exclusive beers from the tap room, Goose Island Tap Room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Again, that is the Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer, the friends of CHGO, now, then, and forever.
That's right. And hey, if you own a fleet of vehicles, ComEd wants you to know that it's getting easier for your business to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being of all of us who live on said planet.
Hell yeah. The electric grid is evolving to meet.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah.
The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs, brother, as we all move with confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of Hulkamaniacs, I mean shipping trucks, ComEd can help you guide to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners and Hulkamaniacs do, Greg?
What you gonna do when you go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help business go electric? If you own a business, don't wait, brother. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean, Chico?
Hell yeah, brother. Now go now and see how electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come, and let lights shine on the 24-inch pythons, brother.
That's right.
The most electrifying grid.
Yes. All right. Let's get serious.
Come on now.
This is sport we're talking about here. We can't joke around or have fun. Damn it. All right, let's get to these super chats, and then we'll get to our segments, and then we're going to go celebrate what's left of this freaking year. $5 from Alan says, so what are the thoughts on playing Phillips on his offside versus his natural side? Tonight he was on his offside. I mean, it's hard to judge from a game like this. All I know is Isaac Phillips was a -5 in 16:30 of ice time. What Luke has said in the past about guys playing on their offside is that he wants physically stronger defensemen to do it because they can play this puck more strongly on their backhand along the boards. So look for him to get a chance. Look for Nolan Allen to get a chance at that. Any of the bigger, so maybe Del Mastro down the road, they need to find somebody. If they don't draft or sign a right defenseman, they're going to need one of these kids to step up and figure it out. So I don't have too many thoughts on tonight from Isaac Phillips because
yeah, I mean it's hard to get a full scope of his performance. He's played both, and for the most part this year, I'd say most games from him haven't been bad, but this one was rough tonight. So you know, it's learning those lessons at the NHL level, and I hope that from the bumps and bruises, he's going to kind of figure things out moving forward. And yeah, I think there's a lot there with Isaac Phillips. Like there's a lot there to untap and find a really good NHL player. And I hope he does it. Yeah.
I know we have another super chat too we need to knock out. This is from Test My Tickles.
Yeah, test him.
$20 super chat says, thank you so much for the hours of entertainment in 2023. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Test My Tickles. Yes. Appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat.
I believe Test My Tickles became a diehard today too. I think if I'm remembering my chats from 45 minutes ago.
Nice. So, and he says he likes Mario's closet. Mario, show him your knob.
Here it is.
Dark.
There you go. There you go. Free knob shot from Mario.
There you go.
Careful. It's going to get kicked off of YouTube.
Show knobs.
All right.
If you're listening to the audio or only version of this, you're really confused right now.
Hey, go find it on YouTube and smash that like button for us while you're there.
Yeah.
And you'll get to see
knob.
Mario's knob.
Censor that knob, YouTube.
Exactly. We'll blur that out later in post production. We've got to pay some things off. We had a poll going today. I failed to mention it because the game was 8-1 and I played like ass too. What was the biggest story of 2023? The draft lottery and Bedard, the passing of Rocky Wirtz, or Kane and Taves moving on. Unsurprisingly, the number one story of the year, as voted by you, the CHGO chat participant,
Saint Connor,
is the Hawks winning the draft lottery and selecting Connor Bedard. Yeah, we suspected that might be it. So there it is, which leads us nicely into Connor's Corner. In this one, Connor Bedard had an assist. He was -3, 2 shots on goal, and let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shot attempts. So he was active. He was active in this game for sure. Almost had a goal in that first period. I can't believe that didn't trickle through.
Yeah.
15:45 of ice time. So better than last game, but a couple defensive lapses you want to see cleaned up too.
Steven, can you bring up that graphic again?
Yeah, there's some new Easter eggs
okay, I don't know what's above his head.
There's an iPad in
it's supposed to be like a Chicago Star, like a New Year's Eve type thing.
It looks like
I don't know why it looks so choppy, but it
looks like a whited out WCW logo or something. That's weird. And then he's got something else on his race car bed. The little, is that a remote control helicopter?
It is.
Nice.
Oh, nice. He got an RC copter.
And Luke did not take away the iPad, so that's good.
Yeah, well, it's a long flight back to or they're not going back to Chicago from Dallas. Out to New York, out to the West Coast. East
Definitely.
Coast. Oof.
All right, and the last thing we have to do is give Mario, now that he's back, he is once again one Who's Your Hawk.
I sure have.
Oh, he's got his own helmet.
Hell yeah, brother. Oh, the headphones are coming off.
There you go.
There it is.
Oh.
Beautiful.
It looks like
Does that work? Can you hear us like that?
I can hear you. Yeah. You can also see my screen.
You look like a customizable player from NHL 24.
Hell yeah.
You got to get that purple tint. That's 15 wins for Mario. Greg has 11. I have 10. So we got some catching up to do. That's for damn sure.
I got to tighten this thing so I can get that nice helmet line like Bedard.
Oh, yeah. Get that big mark on your forehead.
Yeah.
From the Hamlet. Yeah, of course. All right. Well, that was a long night. So we're going to call it a night. How about that? We are back on Tuesday, 6:30 pregame show. Then we got the postgame after Hawks and Preds. Hopefully that's a little more enjoyable than this one was. That's for damn sure. Anything you guys want to add before we wrap up our final show of 2023?
Just
go ahead, Greg.
Happy New Year wishes to everybody. And if you're out and about tonight, be safe. I hear Uber's free. I know the CTA is free. So be smart. If you're out and about, if you're listening to us, at a party or at a bar, and you're going to be consuming alcoholic beverages tonight, get home safe, because we got a lot more of these shows to come in years to come. So we want you to be a part of it.
Yes, absolutely. And we had people in the chat today, tonight, saying, thanking us for everything that we've done this year. People reaching out to us online, sharing their appreciation for what we do in many, many different ways. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the three of us, we appreciate all of you for supporting us and hopping on the ride with us and enjoying this goofy little podcast that we do about hockey, and becoming diehards, spreading the message of CHGO and awareness of us helps us continue to do it and to do a lot of fun things. This last year has been a wild ride, with all the stories that we just kind of mentioned in our YouTube poll. There was a lot that went into those things happening, and everything in between. Just want to send out appreciation to everybody for this past 2023 year. It was a roller coaster, and at the end of the roller coaster here, we get an 8-1 turd, but we still have Connor Bedard, and the rest of the league doesn't. So that's an amazing thing. And I cannot wait to see what the calendar year of 2024 brings for us, for CHGO, and for the Blackhawks. And yeah, enjoy the evening. If you're in the Atlantic time zone, Happy New Year. If you're in the Eastern time zone, Happy New Year to you in about 20 minutes.
Yeah. All right. I think that pretty much covered all of it.
Sure.
Well done, my friend.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Make sure you smash that like button for us on the way out as a final gesture. And if you want to log on to your favorite podcast app, make sure you're following, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We would appreciate that as well. But that's going to do it for us. We'll be back Tuesday night for a 6:30 pregame show, Hawks and Preds. We'll talk to you then on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.